2020 started off as 2019 began, with the Australian bushfires ripping through 11 million hectares of land in New South Wales and Victoria, and the RFS battled through the blaze, trying their best to contain it. The native wildlife suffered huge casualties, and images like this spurred huge donations to help the cause. Insurance company IAG was the most exposed to fire claims, and their share price suffered. Polynovo, on the other hand, enjoyed huge revenue and sentiment during this month. February. The UK finally leave the European Union, and house prices in Australian capital cities see record monthly gains with high auction clearance rates. Meanwhile, in China, a mystery disease that has been brewing in Wuhan spreads to the rest of the world.
Confirmed number of people infected with coronavirus in the US to 8 across 5 states.
And that was about $50 billion wiped off the value of Australian shares today.
The Ruby Princess let off 2,700 infected passengers into the streets of Sydney.
Today, we are introducing a $1,500 per fortnight JobKeeper payment.
Vodafone gets a green light for their merger with TPG, and the world stock markets take the biggest tumble it's seen in a decade. March. Companies start cancelling the dividend payments, and the RBA tries to boost the economy by cutting its cash rate to only 0.5%. The concept of flattening the curve gets introduced to help the healthcare system, and the RBA calls for an emergency meeting to cut the rate even lower to just 0.25%.
Moving to put a moratorium on evictions of persons.
I've developed mild symptoms of the coronavirus.
Toilet paper becomes a valuable commodity, and fights break out in supermarkets to get them. In the stock market, Afterpay sinks to just $8.90 at one point. April. Queues for unemployment benefits goes for hours, and the online MyGov system crashes from the volume. Retail, food and clothing spending all crash, and professionals are forced to start working from home. For the first time, oil prices goes negative, and the airline Virgin Australia announces voluntary administration. Mesoblast gains with remarkable treatment results for its product, and Atomo Diagnostics couldn't have chosen a better time to IPO. And Kogan enjoys massive online sales. May. Australia organises protests against its own lockdown rules. The ASX sees the rise of the buy now pay later sector, and Afterpay gets a massive $300 million stake from the Chinese giant Tencent. Reddit proves its influence on the stock market and helps Novonix's share price out. June. Virgin Australia has finally found a new buyer to take over after months of negotiations and hundreds of unused, grounded aircraft. One of the suitors, Cyrus Capital, withdraws its offer, and the new owner, Bain Capital, looks to slim down the business. The Australian government looks to build its way out of recession with a home builder scheme worth up to $25,000, and the Black Lives Matter movement makes its way to Australia. Qantas seeks to raise capital through its shareholders, but only manages to raise $51 million. But JB Hi-Fi has no problems reaching its all-time highs. July.
It's happening in Melbourne now.
The second wave hits through hotel quarantine and puts the entire city into lockdown, with a smaller hotspot at the crossroads with mandatory hotel quarantine back into effect. AMP has suffered through all of this and decides to sell its life insurance arm. And the alarming pandemic numbers tanks the stock market again. August. The Russian vaccine Sputnik 5 is the first to gain approval, and Beirut is rocked by an explosion of ammonium nitrate. Apple and Tesla goes for a split, and the US continues the trade war with China by banning TikTok, WeChat, and Huawei. Reddit helps out another ASX stock, Brainchip, which surprises even its own CEO about the share price. Treasury Wines become a target of Beijing. And Mesoblast takes another tumble and a rocket on an FDA meeting. Harvey Norman continues its bumper sales year as well. September, Qantas flies to nowhere and Rio Tinto lands in hot waters for blasting a cultural indigenous landmark. While Westpac eats the biggest fine ever.
Responsible lending has become restrictive lending.
Lending laws are relaxed and Novonix takes a hit after Tesla's battery day didn't live up to expectations. A2M takes a massive hit as the China market collapses. October, the federal budget is handed down and the ASX rejoices. Low and middle income earners all get a bigger tax break effective immediately. The Reserve Bank kicks off QE easing and President Trump and Melania return positive test results. Trump recovers quickly, but the stock market does not and tries to predict the election results. Coca-Cola Amatil gets a takeover offer from its European counterpart, as does AMP from US firm Arias. Social media and Mixer subscriptions pump EM1, and Aussie Broadband gets a huge running start from its IPO. November, America decides. A controversial election gives us a new president-elect, while Trump claims fraudulent counting. The interest rate drops again to 0.1% and 3 vaccines start to roll in. The ASX reacts well to the vaccine news and Bega Cheese confirms an important acquisition. December. Trade relations between China and Australia continue to deteriorate and many Australian products are hit with tariffs. The University of Queensland's vaccine is abandoned as the French president tests positive. The northern beaches of Sydney have an outbreak and is locked down again. Mesoblast is rocked again by poor trial results, and China adds massive tariffs to Penfolds wine. A2M earnings outlook causes the share price to fall to the lowest in a year. The final hope for America and the world is the crucial rollout of the vaccine to save millions of lives and to end the 2020 pandemic for good. So that was 2020 in just 8 minutes. This year's been really tough for everyone, and when I started this channel at the start of 2020, I had no idea that this was going to happen. So I'm really thankful that we've gotten over all of this now, and I'm also really grateful for all the new subscribers and all the viewers that have watched at least one of my video. So this will be the last video of the year, and I really hope that everyone stays safe and everyone has a great Christmas and a new year, and I'll be seeing you in the year 2021 when hopefully all this is going to be over. And yeah, so smash the like button, subscribe and do everything else, and I'll see you in 2021.